teacher saying about Luke, as far as I'm concerned, I know that Luke's got autism, but as far as I'm concerned, he can leave it at the doorstep when he comes into my classroom.
Including pupils on the autistic spectrum may be very challenging for teachers. And for their autistic pupils, school life can be a blooming, buzzing confusion of uncertainty. Blackpool is home to the Jackson family. Jackie, her 3 daughters and 4 sons. All the boys are on the autistic spectrum, and 3 of them are school age.
8:30 in the morning, I've done a full day by then.
Jackie is currently doing a PhD on autism and regularly lectures at conferences for education professionals. She has also written a book about autism and family life. Ben is 8. He is on the autistic spectrum and has some developmental delay. He is on roll at a special school, but has a flexible education plan, including home education. Joe, who's 12, is included in mainstream school and also has ADHD.
And he went to punch me, so I went to punch him back, but I punched her really.
Luke is 16 and no longer attends school. He's written 2 books, designed a website from scratch, and for him, the school experience was very difficult. He has Asperger syndrome.
Sorry, that was just me messing about.
Action!
Describing autism is such a hard thing to do in the first place. I mean, it's characterised by what is called the triad of impairments, which is in social interaction, communication, and, this used to say imagination, flexibility of thinking. Basically, these difficulties, if you want to call them difficulties, I prefer to say differences, just manifest in so many different ways. So some people might not be able to speak at all, some people might speak an awful lot but about one subject. With social interaction, some people might not want to interact, others want to interact desperately but do it quite inappropriately.
Asperger syndrome is a communicational disorder, and I have problems with communication, social interaction and imagination, which has recently been changed to theory of mind. I have problems in social situations. These can be anything from school to a night out, can be anything at all. But these things which people usually find easy just don't come naturally to me at all. Are you sitting comfortably? Close your eyes and imagine going into a room awash with so many smells that you feel your head is likely to explode. Now imagine sitting amidst these smells and having someone scrape their nails down a blackboard, rustle crisp bags, or make any other noise that makes you cringe. Amid such noises is the unsettling buzz of a mass of people all around you, speaking a foreign language and occasionally glancing over at you and expecting you to make some acknowledgement to their unfathomable utterances. I have problems with processing, which is the biggest problem. I can't follow speech and things as quickly as other people, so there'll be a conversation going on, and because I haven't processed what's been said before, then I'll be one step behind everybody else.
Luke was diagnosed with Asperger syndrome when he was 8. All I got told was Asperger syndrome, on the autistic spectrum, goodbye, that's it really. And even though intuitively I knew that he didn't like bright lights and I knew he didn't like being cuddled, and you start thinking, well, maybe if I mix him with other children more. So I was sending him off to nursery and thinking, well, give it a try and he'll learn to interact. The earlier years were just this great big whirlwind of nightmare, really, because he screamed all the time and I was taking him out into situations that he probably hated.
To be honest, I don't understand what people will be thinking. I don't understand that people feel different things to me. I don't understand that people think different things to me. I just don't understand how this works, to be honest. It's empathy, and it's knowing what people are feeling and thinking. It's being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes that is hard for an AS person.
The flexibility of thinking is something that really characterises all people with autism, in my opinion, because they're so very, very rigid and, really not getting other people's point of view in quite the same way.
The lack of imagination being a symptom of AS has been changed recently to theory of mind, because if you look at a lot of the work, say, of a AS person, and say if it's photography or if it's painting or if it's novels, then it was clear that there isn't a lack of imagination.
They don't know what my imagination is like, do they? And I say, I'd go and get one of my stories or something, bring it in and prove them wrong and say, look, I have got a good imagination.
Every single day all of these come out of the cupboard and get lined up on the windowsill because Luke likes the way the light shines through them. So we've got a bit of an ongoing battle, actually. So I put them away and he gets them back out. It's indicative of autism that they like to line things up, but that's also quite a problem at school. That was something that Luke used to get bullied for an awful lot, because he used to have his pencils lined up in a certain way before he started work, and other kids used to know that if they moved one the wrong way around, Luke would start screaming, and that used to get him angry. You know, Luke?
With Asperger's syndrome, you're not the same as everyone else, you're just into different things and you just stick on one thing. Like, my brother Luke, he's dead bad into computers at the moment and everything, and he knows all the names of guitars anymore and everything.
I think Joe's would have to be either reading and writing, because at the moment he's reading a lot of books, but I think he's definitely going to be a novelist when he's old, because he's an amazing writer.
What's the biggest number that you know?
Infinity.
Infinity? Wow.
Ben's specialist subject at the moment, I think, is maths. Ben developed maths very quickly.
How did you know about infinity?
I just knew about it.
I think it was a Friday. It was about tea time, about 4 or 5 o'clock, and he was counting on his fingers, and no one knew what he was doing, because he was just sitting there going like this for ages.
I just write sums.
And then he just looked up at Mum and came out with this huge sum.
I know nearly all of them.
Like 346 plus 42 plus 85 plus 7 plus 2 plus 56 is this. And then came out with this answer. And Mum just checked it on the calculator on a computer. And he was right.
I don't really do reading, so I'm not really a reading guy. So I'm not good with reading, but I'm good with numbers.
He always says to Mum that he's a numbers guy.
I'm a numbers guy, really.
So that's definitely Ben's specialist subject.
I think the school were learning as much as I was to start with, and the main difficulty Luke had was with bullying. He was so different from his peers, and he stood out because he liked to walk round in circles, he liked to line things up, he only talked about dinosaurs at that particular time all the time. And he really couldn't understand why teachers would make him do circle time and why they would want kids would want to play cowboys and Indians.
When I was at school, I had a group of friends who basically just knew me, like, for who I was, and knew that Jackson was a bit weird, and just, like, understood, like, the different difficulties that I had at school. So making friends with them wasn't really an issue. But generally socialising just within, say, class and, like, with teachers and students alike was just a lot more difficult than it should have been, to be honest.
A lot of the time when he was very little, it manifested as aggression. You know, he just got angry and hit people. But as he got older and he started school properly, he just really withdrew into himself, and he was quite isolated and in his own little world in a way. Quite unhappy little world, I think, because he didn't really get what was going on.
Action!
What we're going to do today is we're going to look at experimental probability. We've looked at probability before, Joe. Thank you.
Joe is 12 years old, and Joe has a range of all sorts of complex difficulties. The most one that presents is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and all of the language difficulties that are associated with Asperger's syndrome.
If it's evens, it's going to be
50-50.
50-50, which is...
I used to mess about, like throw things across the classroom all the time and do back chat with the teacher and everything.
If I rolled the dice 6 times, okay, what should I get? Joe didn't respond well to me, and in truth I didn't respond well to him. It took a while for us to get used to one another, and I think it took a while for him to settle down.
All I ever heard was, Mr. Sagar's kicked me out of class, Mr. Sagar this, I can't stand Mr. Sagar. And, you know, it was this constant, you could tell there was just a clash the whole time. And then Joe's support worker said that she could time him, and within 5 minutes he would have been kicked out of class on every single maths lesson. Joe was doing it on purpose to get out of class, and he was winding Mr. Sagar up.
Okay, what you need to do is you need to tally up your frequency, okay? So write the numbers in the end column once you've actually...
Joe arrived as a bit of a mysterious package, really, because he wasn't at the time subject to a statement of special educational needs. Jackie, in many respects, was the key element in this. She was very open initially with her concerns. She gave quite an accurate picture of Joe's behaviour in school, which was very, very valuable to us.
But the most important thing is to listen, to communicate. If a teacher phones me up and says, Joe's not coming to lessons, or Joe won't listen, or he's not done his homework, I always say, thanks very much, I want to know. Because if we know at home that they've got an issue in whatever subject, then you can talk it through, and we can take our time doing the work that you do with kids that learn in a different way.
There was a period that we went through where Joe actually worked on his own away from the classroom, and I wasn't particularly happy about that. And it came to a head one day, and we sat down and discussed it and said it wasn't going to happen anymore. We were going to try and work together rather than work against one another.
I didn't really listen. He took me into the surf unit, closed the doors, and just we was there for ages, and he was just going on about stuff but I was just, there's a keyboard next to me, so I was just going doing on the keyboard, and he was there going on, and I was like, but I could tell he was trying to get to me, and he did.
When I actually sat down and talked with Joe, I didn't understand what the problem was, and I realised that he'd got difficulties there, which I was aware of, his particular difficulties, but he just wasn't responding. So we sort of sat and discussed and looked at the way that we could actually take the lesson onwards.
I listened, but I didn't. I knew what he was saying, but he went on for too long. So he meant to say you need to improve, and you're not getting it right at the moment, and you're not going to get a good education if you don't get on with your work properly and everything like that.